This is the fifth assignment of the JavaScript course. This is about creating the time adder function using the switch case statements. So we have a time adder function over here. The time adder function takes in 4 parameters: values and the labels. So these values will be added together, and then we are going to return back the final value at the end of this function. The first step is to check for parameters. I have written a function called as check parameters validity, which will check the validity of all the parameters. In case if the parameters are invalid, we are going to return false. If there are no errors in my parameters, I'm then going to convert the individual times that are received into seconds. So both the times will be converted into seconds, and then I'm going to add both the seconds to get my total number of seconds. Once I calculate the total number of seconds, the next step is to calculate which is the largest label that I need to display my output in. For example, if I add 1 hour with 23 hours, it would be 24 hours, which means I have to display 1 day and not 24 hours. So these 3 lines calculate the largest label, and after that, once my largest label is done, I calculate the final unit that I need to display and the final time that I need to display, and we return the time and the unit or the label as an array. So just to check if it works fine, I'm just giving we'll just use the console.log and see if my result gets printed. So if I just run, it says my resultant is 3 hours. That's because I'm adding 60 minutes and 2 hours, which results in 3 hours. So let me just check if I say 30 minutes and 30 minutes, it should be 1 hour. Let me just check if it works fine. It displays 1 hour and not 1 hours. Since 1 is singular, I display hour and not hours. Okay. What will happen if I add I don't know, I'll just take some examples, say 40,000 seconds and say 50,000 seconds. So what value do we get? 90,000 seconds, so that is 25 hours. Now if I add 1 second to this one, now I should be seeing the final result in seconds. 9001 seconds, because in case if I convert this to days or hours or minutes, I'm going to be left out with 1 second, which is a fraction. And in this program, we are not going to display fractions, we are only going to display integer values. Okay, so this is my function. So let me just check if my error conditions are handled properly. What if I give 40,000 second? I give a singular value. If I say run, I'm going to see that there's an error input and I'm returning false from my function. What if I give, instead of a number, I'll make this as seconds. What if I give a negative number over here? Okay, so then I see false once again, it says error is in input. What if I give, instead of a positive number, I just give an empty array? Let me see if this works. This should give an error as well. There's a parameters are of the wrong type. What if I give a random what if I get some random string over, say ABC? This should again give an error. Okay, so all the error conditions are working fine. So let's go and check what is the code that I have written for checking errors. Okay, so the function is called as check params validity, which takes all the 4 parameters that was passed to my time adder function. Okay, I have written a small inner function over here which takes 2 parameters, value and type. It just checks whether the type of, using the type of operation, whether the type of value is equivalent to the type. If so, it returns true, else it returns false. The reason for writing this function is just to make my code shorter. If you see these lines, I'm using the check type of function, and I'm saying the time 1 should be of type number, unit 1 should be string, time 2 should be number, and unit 2 should be string. If any of these condition fails, then I'm going to return false. Else we are going to continue further. The second error condition that I'm checking is if my units are appropriate. I'm passing unit 1 and unit 2 to a function called as check units. So if you see my check units function, what I'm doing here is I'm just checking if unit is one of these 8 values. It can be seconds, minutes, hours, days, second, minute, hour, and day. In case if my unit is equivalent to any of these 8 strings, I'm going to return true. Else, which is the default condition, I'm going to return false, which means that the label string which I'm passing is false. Okay, that's the second error check. If both the units are appropriate, the third thing I'm going to check is whether my time is greater than 0 and it should be a positive integer. That's what I'm going to check here. So I'm checking if time 1 is less than 0 or time 2 is less than 0, or if my time 1 is an integer. I'm using the isInteger function to check if time 1 is an integer. I'm also checking if time 2 is an integer. If any of these conditions is true, then I'm going to return false, because I don't need positive or negative numbers or non-integer numbers. The next check I'm going to do is for plurality. For example, I shouldn't pass a value called as 1 day, 1 days, which means that for singular I should be using day, and for plural I should be using days, the plural version of my unit. I'm doing it using my check plurality function. So for check plurality, if I can show it to you here. Okay, so again I'm using a switch case over here. In case if it is seconds, minutes, hours, or days, my value has to be greater than 1, or it should not be equal to 1. So that's when it is going to be plural. Okay, the second set of case statements is in case if my units as displayed as second, minute, hour, or day, then if my value is 1, I'm going to return true. In all the other cases, I'm just returning false. Okay, so this is how I'm checking my plurality. So these 4 checks form my error handling, which I've done my check params validity. So if I have to just quickly check all the errors once again, so I'm passing 60 minutes and 2 hours, it means it returns true. In case what if I send 60 minute, not minutes, and I say run, it returns false. What if I send a negative number over here and I say run, it returns false again. What if I send a random string over here instead of strings and I run, it returns false again. What if instead of 2 I send some object, an empty object over here, say run. Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be giving this one. Okay, it's an empty object, again it's false. The next thing is what if this is a number and instead of this string again pass say 23, I'll pass some number. Okay, so I'll just run, again it returns false. So it is all kinds of error handling is already done over here. So okay, so I'll just move on to the next function which I want to show you. So I have written 2 functions called convert to seconds and convert seconds to units. So these functions are going to convert any time into seconds format or from seconds into any other form that I wish for. Because the logic which I am using is actually takes 2 times, converts it to seconds, adds them, and converts it back to any other unit that we need. Okay, so the first function over here is convert to seconds, which takes a time value and its associated unit and returns back the seconds format. I've written a switch case statement over here. In case of if the input value is input unit is seconds, then I don't need to do any calculation, it is already in seconds, so I return time as it is. In case if it is minutes, I multiply time by 60 and return it back. In case if the unit is hours, then I multiply the input time by 3600, which is the total number of seconds in 1 hour, and in case of days I multiply time with 86,400, is the number of seconds in a day. So if I want to quickly check this function, so I'm just converting 25 minutes into seconds. Okay, so if I just run this, it says it 1500. Just to make it simple, I'll just say 2 minutes, I'll run it, which is 120 seconds. If I say 2 hours, it should be 7200 seconds, 7200. If I say 2 days, it's going to be a huge value. is 172,800 seconds. So my convert to seconds is fine. So in my next function called convert seconds to units, I am doing the reverse of this process, whereby I am taking in seconds and converting it to the unit that of my desire. For example, if I want to convert so many seconds into minutes, so I'm using a switch case over here which takes in the unit as its parameter, and it will, in case if I send minutes, I'm dividing the seconds by 60 so that I can get the appropriate number of minutes. But you can notice that I'm using the floor function. What this floor function does is, in case if there's a fraction or a decimal point, it is going to consider only the integer part of that particular number. The reason why I'm doing this is because the requirement of this assignment is that we only display integers and we don't display floating point or fractions. So the same thing with hours and days. Whatever seconds come in, I'm just dividing it by 3600 or 86,400, which will give me the appropriate number of seconds. In case if none of these units match, my default, I'm not doing anything, I'm just breaking out and just returning 0 in case if none of the units match the required unit. So let us quickly check if this individual function is working fine. So here I'm converting seconds to units. I'm converting 3600 into minutes, so actually it should give 60 minutes, which is 1 hour. The same 3600 seconds if I convert it to hours, so I can see it is 1 hour. In case if I give 7000 to, even if I give, for example, if I give 100 seconds into minutes, so ideally it is something like 1.6 minutes, but since we are displaying only the integer half, it displays only 1 because I'm ignoring the floating point half of it. So this is how I'm converting seconds into any unit that I need. The next function which I have written is to convert the given seconds value into all the units. For example, in case if there's a floating point number, I'll just display a small example so that you can understand this better before I explain my source code. I'll just uncomment here. What if I give something called 60 minutes and 2 hours, and I just convert, I'll just convert 60 minutes and 2 hours into my full time format. So if I just clear and run this, my 60 minutes plus 2 hours is 3 hours. So it is 0 days, 3 hours, 0 minutes and 0 seconds. That's what I'm displaying. So let's take another example. What if I say it is 25 minutes and say plus 20 hours? So what is it going to give me? It is going to give me 20 hours and 25 minutes. What if I give 25 hours plus 20 hours? I'm going to get 1 day and 21 hours. What if I give, say, I don't know, I'll just give some random numbers over here, say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, and say 6, 7, 8, 9, 0 seconds. So in case if this is converted into time, my appropriate time format, it would be 0 days, 22 hours, 17 minutes and 15 seconds. Now the reason why I have written this function is to check which is the largest unit that I'm going to need. Okay, so if you see this example, if it is 22 hours, 17 minutes and 15 seconds, it means that I have to convert my time into seconds format, because in case if I convert it to minutes, I would be losing out 15 seconds. In case if I convert it to hours, I would be losing out 17 days and 15 seconds, 17 minutes and 15 seconds. Okay, so let us take with a simple example. If I say 60 seconds and another 60 seconds over here, I usually 2 minutes. So the logic is I start with the lowest unit and see if the remainder is 0. In case if the remainder is 0, then I go to the next higher unit and see what is the remainder. In this case, my remainder is 2, or my value is 2, which means I need to use minutes as my largest unit. So if I go for 60 hours and 60 minutes, it would be 2 days and 13 hours. So should I use seconds as my unit? No, because my value of seconds is 0. Should I use, so I go to the next higher unit, minutes. Since minutes is 0, I don't have to use it. Then I go to the next available unit, which is hours, which is a non-zero number. So hours is the unit that I'm going to need to display this particular final result. So this is what we are doing in this particular function. Convert to seconds takes the seconds value, the final seconds that I'm going to need. It also takes in the unit for which I'm going to do a conversion for. And thirdly, I'm passing a time object over here. The time object helps me in storing all these 4 values, the days, hours, minutes, and seconds, in a single object. So if I see the time object over here, it's a constructor. This is the object. This has 4 parameters, days, hours, minutes, and seconds, which is assigned to 0. It also has a check largest label, the logic which I just explained a while ago. In case if seconds is not equal to 0, I return seconds as the largest label. Else if minutes is not equal to 0, I return minutes. Else if hours not equal to 0, I return hours. Else if days is not equal to 0, I just return days as my unit. In case if none of these match, just to make sure that my error handling is complete, I just return seconds by default, just to help me, just in case if some of my error conditions goes wrong. I have a reset method which will help me to reset my object to 0 in case if necessary. I have a display method which will actually display this particular format. So there's no logic within reset and display. The core logic is how to calculate the check largest label. So coming back to this convert seconds to all units method, so it takes in the unit, checks the unit that I want to convert my seconds value to. So in case if it's minutes, so it will just divide my seconds by 60 and does a floor operation. And it also checks the remaining seconds using the mod operator. So after converting minutes, if any amount of seconds is left out, that is stored within the seconds value or the seconds variable, and again recursively call this convert seconds to all units method using the seconds unit. So in case if I want to convert to hours, days, hours, 60 minutes, I can first call this particular function using the days unit, which will divide the seconds by 86,400 and I get the number of days. Whatever seconds is remaining, I use the mod operator to get my remaining seconds, and the remaining seconds I should be converting it to hours because I have already got the days value. Now I need to check my hours. So then the same iteratively I'm calling the same function again and again until the entire seconds input parameter is exhausted and I get all the 4 days, hours, minutes, and seconds. Okay, so this was the next function. So once my largest label is decided, so I need to, I think I missed out on my check largest label. I'll just show you one thing. For if it is 60 hours and 60 minutes, I'll just clear and run. My final largest label that I need to use is hours, because here hours is the largest unit with a non-zero reminder. In case if I use 10 hours and so I'll just say 10 days and 20 days, so I'll just run it. It would be 30 days, so my largest label is days. So in case if I say 20 hours and I'll say 4 hours, so the total will be 24 hours, which means I should be using day. It says that days is the largest label that I need to use. But one thing you can notice is even though my days is 1, which is singular, my function is passing the unit as days, right? So I have written another function which takes in the time and the label, and it determines whether I need to use a singular or a plural version of that particular label. So that is being done in my assign unit. What it does, it takes the time, not in seconds, but in the appropriate unit itself. It takes the time, it takes the unit, and if the time is 1, using a switch case statements, I'm returning the singular version of that particular time, say second, minute, hour and day. In case if my else, which means if my time is greater than 0 or not equal to 1, so my plural version of my unit is returned back to the function, right? So if I have to quickly check this particular function, I'll just come on this. There's something called a assign unit. So if I say 1 seconds, the return should be a second, not seconds, because 1 is singular. If I say 10 seconds, it will return me seconds itself, which is a plural version. If I say 10 second, it should return me seconds because 10 is plural. So this function is working fine. So those are the component functions that I have written. So this is my time adder function once again, where I check for errors, convert to seconds, check the largest label, and calculate the final time and unit, and return it as part of an array. So just to verify it once more, I'll just run it. It shows 9001 seconds, which is in seconds. In case if I make it 50,000 seconds, it will be 90,000 seconds, which is 25 hours. If I say 59 minutes and 60 seconds, it should be 1 hour, because 59 minutes plus 60 seconds is 1 minute. It is 60 minutes. So I'll just say it's 3000. Oh, sorry, it is 60 hours, not 60 minutes, 60 hours, which is 1 hour, which is 60 minutes. So it is 3600 seconds and 1 hour. Similarly, if I say 23 hours and 60 minutes, it should be 1 day, because it is 24 hours. It is 1 day. Okay, so now if I say 24 hours and add another 24 hours to it, it should be 2 days in plural. It should be 2 days. So this is the output. I'll post this solution on Twitter. Please review it. You can throw questions on Twitter in case if you have doubts or if you want any clarifications. Thank you.